Chapter 1. The glitter of the emerald slipper. The grand ballroom of Ashbourne Manor glowed with the warmth of 100 crystal chandeliers, their light refracting through flutes of champagne and casting prismatic flecks across the polished parquet floor. Hercule Poirot, immaculate in his tailored evening suit, stood near a marble pillar, his sharp eyes scanning the swirl of guests. The air was thick with the scent of tuberose and ambition, for tonight's gala was no mere social affair. It was a spectacle centered on a single mesmerizing object, the emerald slipper. Lady Eleanor Ashbourne, the hostess, had unveiled the artifact an hour earlier with theatrical flair. Encased in a glass dome on a velvet-draped pedestal, the slipper was a marvel, a delicate silk creation encrusted with emeralds that shimmered like green fire. Its origins were shrouded in rumor. Some whispered it belonged to a long-lost Russian princess. Others claimed it was cursed. Poirot cared little for such tales. His interest lay in the facts, and the fact was that the slipper was worth a fortune. Mon ami, Poirot murmured to Captain Hastings, who stood beside him, fidgeting with his cufflinks. Observe the guests. The slipper, it draws their eyes like moths to a flame. Greed, envy, desire, these are the sparks that ignite a crime. Hastings, ever the earnest companion, frowned. Surely, Poirot, no one would dare steal it under such scrutiny. The room is packed, and Lady Ashbourne has guards at every door. Poirot Sip's moustache twitched. The boldest crimes, Hastings, are committed in plain sight. The crowd, it is not a deterrent, it is a cloak. The gala buzzed with a cosmopolitan mix, aristocrats in glittering jewels, a dour retired colonel nursing a brandy, a flamboyant actress trailing laughter, and the enigmatic Countess Varenka, whose sapphire eyes seemed to hold secrets older than the manor itself. Poirot noted their movements, their glances toward the slipper, their whispered asides. He was not here by chance. Lady Ashbourne had invited him, sensing the undercurrent of intrigue surrounding her prized possession. As the orchestra struck up a waltz, the lights dimmed for a dramatic effect, plunging the room into a twilight glow. Guests gasped, then laughed, assuming it was part of the evening's spectacle. But when the chandeliers flickered back to life, a collective cry rose. The glass dome stood empty. The emerald slipper was gone. Pandemonium erupted. Lady Ashbourne, her face pale as her pearls, clutched Poirot Sip's arm. "Monsieur Poirot, you must help. The slipper, it is irreplaceable. Stolen right under our noses." Poirot Sip's eyes gleamed with purpose. "Calm yourself, madame. Hercule Poirot will restore order to this chaos. First, we must ensure no one leaves the manor. Hastings, alert the guards." As Hastings hurried off, Poirot approached the pedestal. The glass dome was intact, its lock unforced. A faint smudge on the velvet base caught his eye, too subtle for most, but to Poirot it was a shout. He knelt, his gloved fingers hovering over the mark. "Interesting," he muttered. "A trace of powder, perhaps talc. Curious, The guests were herded into the ballroom's center, their protests mingling with nervous chatter. Poirot's gaze swept over them, cataloguing details, the colonel's stiff posture, the actress's theatrical swoon, the countess's serene composure. Then he noticed a young maid, hovering near a side table, her hands twisting a napkin. Her eyes darted toward a velvet curtain, and Poirot's mind filed the observation away. "Mesdames et messieurs," Poirot announced, his voice cutting through the din. "A crime has been committed, but fear not. Hercule Poirot is here to unravel it. I ask for your cooperation. No one shall leave until I have examined the scene and questioned those present." Lady Ashbourne, regaining her composure, nodded. "Anything you need, Monsieur Poirot. The slipper must be found." Poirot began his inspection, moving with the precision of a watchmaker. Near the pedestal, he found a single glove, fine kid leather, embroidered with a delicate V. He held it up, catching the Countess Sip's fleeting glance. "Madame la Comtesse," he said smoothly. "Is this yours?" Countess Varenka Sip's smile was a study in elegance. "I fear not, monsieur. I prefer silk gloves. Besides, I was dancing when the lights went out." "Indeed," Poirot replied, his tone neutral. "And yet, the glove, it is most particular. He tucked it into his pocket, his mind already turning over possibilities. A glove left behind. Was it carelessness or a deliberate misdirection? He moved to the curtain where the maid had glanced. Behind it, a narrow door led to a service corridor. Poirot stepped inside, his patent leather shoes silent on the stone floor. A faint draught carried the scent of roses, suggesting an exit to the gardens. He found no footprints, but a single petal, crimson fresh, lay on the threshold. The garden, perhaps, he mused. Or a clever ruse to draw attention outward. Returning to the ballroom, Poirot summoned the maid, whose name was Clara. Her face was pale, her eyes wide. "Mademoiselle Clara, you saw something? Oui? Behind the curtain, perhaps?" Clara stammered. "I don't know, sir. I was clearing glasses when the lights went out. I thought I heard a rustle, but I didn't see nothing." Poirot's smile was gentle but probing. The eyes, they see more than the tongue admits. "Reflect, mademoiselle, and we shall speak again." As Clara scurried away, Hastings returned, breathless. "The guards are posted, Poirot. No one left the manor, but how could someone steal it so quickly?" "The blackout lasted mere seconds. Seconds, Hastings, are enough for a prepared mind," Poirot replied. "The thief knew the moment, the method, and the means, but they did not account for Hercule Poirot." He turned to the guests, now seated and murmuring. The colonel, Sir Reginald Thorne, caught his eye, his fingers drumming on his cane. "This is preposterous," Sir Reginald barked, "searching us like common criminals." Poirot raised a hand. "Patience, Sir Reginald. The little grey cells. They work best in calm. Tell me, where were you when the lights failed?" The colonel's jaw tightened. "By the refreshment table with Miss Langley, the actress. She settle vouch for me." Miss Langley, fanning herself dramatically, nodded. "Oh, yes. He was quite the gentleman, offering me a glass of punch." Poirot's eyes narrowed. "Punch, you say? Yet the table is across the room from the pedestal. Most interesting." As the night deepened, Poirot felt the puzzle taking shape. The glove, the petal, the maid's glance, the colonel's alibi, each was a thread in a tapestry of deception. The emerald slipper was more than a jewel. It was a key to secrets the thief wished to keep buried. But Poirot, with his meticulous mind, would unearth them all. He addressed the room once more. "The slipper has not left Ashworth Manor. It is here, hidden by a hand that believes itself clever, but no hand is cleverer than the mind of Hercule Poirot. We shall meet again, mes amis, and the truth will shine brighter than any emerald." The guests exchanged uneasy glances, and Poirot's moustache curved in a faint, satisfied smile. The game had begun. Chapter 2. Whispers in the Velvet Lounge. The Velvet Lounge of Ashbourne Manor was a cocoon of decadence, its walls draped in deep crimson fabric that seemed to absorb the secrets of its occupants. Hercule Poirot stood at the room's center, his polished shoes sinking slightly into the plush Aubusson carpet. The air carried the faint musk of cigar smoke and the sharper tang of nervous anticipation. The guests, now confined to this elegant prison, sat in clusters on damask sofas and gilded chairs, their faces a gallery of feigned innocence and guarded unease. The emerald slipper's theft had cast a shadow over the gala, and Poirot was determined to pierce it with the light of his little grey cells. "Mesdames, Messieurs," Poirot began, his voice crisp yet soothing, like a conductor calming an orchestra. "The disappearance of the emerald slipper is a puzzle, but one that Hercule Poirot shall solve. I ask for your patience and your candor. Each of you holds a piece of the truth, whether you know it or not." Captain Hastings, stationed by the door, shot Poirot a look of admiration tinged with impatience. "Poirot, surely we should search their belongings. The thief might still have the slipper on them." Poirot's moustache twitched. "Patience, mon ami. A search. It is too crude for now. First we listen. The tongue, it betrays what the hands conceal." He turned his attention to the guests, his eyes darting from one to another like a hawk selecting its prey. Lady Ashbourne sat ramrod straight, her fingers clutching a lace handkerchief as if it were a lifeline. Beside her, Countess Varenka reclined with feline grace, her sapphire eyes unreadable. Sir Reginald Thorne, the retired colonel, glowered from a corner, his cane tapping an impatient rhythm. Miss Langley, the actress, fanned herself with exaggerated distress, while others, a nervous young heir named Percival Wren, a dour financier called Mr. Hargrove, and a handful of minor aristocrats, shifted uncomfortably under Poirot's scrutiny. Poirot began with Lady Ashbourne. "Madame, tell me of the slipper cesterie. Why display it tonight, knowing its value?" Lady Ashbourne Sipp's voice trembled slightly. "It was my late husband Sipp's pride, Monsieur Poirot. He acquired it from a Russian émigré decades ago. Its emeralds are flawless, but its true value lies in its mystery, a relic of a lost era. I thought to share its beauty, not to invite theft." Poirot nodded, his expression unreadable. "And who among your guests knew of its significance?" "Everyone," she admitted. "I spoke of it freely." Perhaps too freely. Her eyes flickered toward the Countess, a gesture Poirot noted. He approached Sir Reginald next, whose ruddy face was set in a scowl. "Sir Reginald, you were at the refreshment table during the blackout. Oui, yet you seem most agitated. Is there something you wish to share?" The Colonel Sipp's cane paused mid-tap. "Agitated? Nonsense. I sat furious at this indignity. In my day, thieves were dealt with swiftly, not coddled with questions. I saw nothing, too busy keeping Miss Langley from fainting." Miss Langley gasped theatrically. "Oh, Colonel, you exaggerate. I was merely startled. The lights went out, and I heard a rustle, like silk brushing past. But I was with you, wasn't? Sit I." Poirot Sift's eyes narrowed. "A rustle, mademoiselle. Most interesting. And where was this sound?" She hesitated, her fan stalling. "Near the pedestal, I think, but it was so dark." Poirot filed the detail away, his attention shifting to a faint sound, a whispered exchange behind a heavy curtain. He moved swiftly, parting the fabric to reveal Clara, the maid from the ballroom, speaking in hushed tones to a footman. The footman froze, but Clara's face flushed with guilt. "Mademoiselle Clara," Poirot said gently, "you have a habit of lingering where secrets are spoken. What did you hear, and with whom do you share it?" Clara Sipp's hands twisted her apron. I wasn't set to eavesdropping, sir. I was just telling Tom here about the Countess. I saw her earlier near the service door, before the blackout. She was with Mr. Wren, whispering something fierce." Poirot Sipp's eyebrows rose. "The Countess and Monsieur Wren. Merci, Clara. You may go, but we shall speak again." As Clara scurried away, Poirot turned to Countess Varenka, who had risen to pour herself a glass of sherry. "Madame la Comtesse, you are much discussed tonight. A meeting with Monsieur Wren, perhaps?" The Countess' said smile was a blade sheathed in silk. "Monsieur Poirot, you give too much weight to servants' said's gossip. Percival and I merely discuss the weather. He is an enthusiastic conversationalist." Percival Wren, a lanky youth with a nervous tic, blushed furiously. "It sets true, sir. Just the weather. The slipper sets nothing to me." Poirot's gaze lingered on Percival's trembling hands, then shifted to the room's details. A small table bore a smudge of talc, matching the mark on the pedestal. Nearby, a velvet cushion held a faint indentation, as if something heavy had rested there briefly. He knelt, examining the floor, and found a single emerald bead, no larger than a pinhead, glinting in the carpet's fibers. "Mon Dieu," Poirot murmured, pocketing the bead. "A careless thief, or one who wishes to be seen as careless." Hastings leaned in. "Poirot, that bead. It sets from the slipper, surely." "Perhaps, Hastings, or perhaps it is a breadcrumb, leading us down a path the thief desires." Poirot's questions continued, each guest revealing slivers of truth laced with evasion. Mr. Hargrove, the financier, admitted to inspecting the slipper closely before the gala, citing professional curiosity about its gems. A dowager, Lady Beatrice, muttered about a curse tied to the slipper's Russian origins, her words dismissed by others but noted by Poirot. The footman, Tom, claimed ignorance, but his sweaty brow suggested otherwise. As the clock struck midnight, Poirot stepped back, his mind a whirl of connections. The whispered affair between the Countess and Percival, the talc, the bead, the rustle of silk, each was a note in a symphony of deceit. The lounge, with its heavy drapes and flickering firelight, seemed to close in, as if guarding the slipper's secret. "Mes amis," Poirot said, addressing the room, "the thief is among us, and they believe themselves clever. But the little grey cells of Hercule Poirot, they are cleverer still. I see the threads of this mystery, and soon I shall weave them into truth." The guests exchanged wary glances, and Poirot's eyes gleamed with quiet triumph. The velvet lounge had yielded its whispers, and the emerald slipper's trail was growing clearer, but the game, he knew, was far from over. Chapter 3. The Footprint in the Garden. The moon hung low over Ashbourne Manor, casting a silver sheen across the rose garden, where shadows danced among the thorny blooms. Hercule Poirot, his overcoat buttoned against the night's chill, stepped carefully along the gravel path, a lantern in hand. The air was heavy with the scent of roses and damp earth, but Poirot's focus was singular, a muddy footprint, stark against the pale stones, discovered by a vigilant footman after the chaos of the emerald slipper's theft. It was a clue that whispered of an intruder, and Poirot's little grey cells were eager to listen. Captain Hastings trailed behind, his breath visible in the cool air. "Poirot, do you really think this footprint is significant? It could belong to a gardener, or even one of the guests taking a midnight stroll." Poirot paused, his lantern casting a glow on the print. "Hastings, mon ami, a gardener does not tread so lightly, nor does a guest leave a mark so precise in the dead of night. Observe, the heel is deep, the toe shallow, as if the owner hesitated. This is the step of one who does not wish to be seen." He knelt, his gloved fingers hovering over the print. It was large, suggesting a man's boot, but the tread was unusual, with a distinctive crosshatch pattern not typical of the manor's staff. The mud was fresh, still glistening, indicating it had been made within the hour. Poirot's eyes traced the path beyond the print, where the gravel gave way to soft earth near a trellis of climbing roses. No further prints were visible, as if the intruder had vanished into the night. "Curious," Poirot murmured, straightening. "The footprint, it is alone, yet it leads to nowhere. A clever trick, perhaps, to mislead Hercule Poirot, but I am not so easily deceived." He turned his attention to the garden's perimeter, where a low stone wall separated the manor's grounds from the wooded countryside. The wall was intact, but a single rose petal, crimson and bruised, lay caught in a crevice. Poirot plucked it delicately, noting its freshness. "Another petal," he said softly, recalling the one found near the service door in the ballroom. "The roses, they speak, Hastings. They mark the thief's path." Hastings frowned. "But Poirot, why would the thief come out here? The slipper was stolen inside the manor. Surely they wouldn't such risk escaping through the garden with guards about." Poirot sits, moustache curved in a faint smile. "The mind of the thief. It is not so simple. The garden. It is a stage for deception, or perhaps a route to a hiding place. We must learn more." He led the way to a small gardener's shed at the garden's edge, its door ajar. Inside, the air was thick with the smell of peat and oil. Poirot's lantern illuminated shelves of tools, sacks of soil, and a pair of muddy boots too small to match the footprint. But in a corner, half hidden by a tarp, was a coil of rope, its end frayed as if recently used. Poirot examined it, noting a faint green thread caught in the fibers. "Emerald green," he mused, "perhaps from the slipper's silk, or another clever ruse." As they exited the shed, a rustle in the bushes made Hastings jump. Poirot raised a hand for silence, his eyes scanning the darkness. A figure emerged. The groundskeeper, Mr. Ellis, a wiry man with weathered hands and a nervous tic. His lantern swayed, casting jittery shadows. "Begging your pardon, sir," Ellis stammered. "I was checking the grounds, heard about the theft, and thought to look for trouble." Poirot's gaze was piercing. "Monsieur Ellis, you are most diligent. Tell me, have you seen anyone in the garden tonight? Or perhaps you know of this footprint?" Ellis Sepsa's eyes darted to the ground, then away. "No, sir, no one. The garden sep's been quiet. That print, it could be old. From earlier today. We had rain. Yells, sepsi, makes the ground soft." Poirot nodded, his expression unreadable. "Rain, oui. Yet this mud is fresh, and the print is clear. You will forgive me, monsieur, if I find your explanation incomplete." Ellis shifted uncomfortably, muttering about checking the hedges before retreating. Poirot watched him go, his mind turning over the groundskeeper Sippy's unease. "A man who knows more than he says," he remarked to Hastings. "But what does he hide? A secret of his own, or loyalty to another?" They returned to the footprint, where Poirot sketched its outline in a small notebook, noting the tread's pattern and depth. He then followed the path toward the manor's rear, where a narrow window led to the service corridor, the same corridor behind the ballroom's curtain. The window was slightly ajar, its latch loose. Poirot peered inside, seeing only darkness, but the draught carried the faint scent of roses again. "Mon Dieu," Poirot said, his voice low. "The garden and the manor, they are connected by more than stone. The thief, they move like a shadow, leaving only whispers of their presence." Hastings rubbed his hands against the cold. "But Poirot, if the thief came through the garden, how did they get the slipper out of the glass dome so quickly? And why leave a single footprint?" Poirot's eyes gleamed in the lantern's light. "The footprint, Hastings, is a message. It says, 'Look here, but not there.' The thief wishes us to believe an outsider struck, yet I suspect the truth lies closer to home. The slipper, it is still within these walls, hidden by a hand that knows the manor's secrets." As they made their way back to the manor, Poirot paused by the rose trellis, where a thorn had snagged a scrap of fabric, black, fine, like a gentleman's coat. He pocketed it, adding it to his growing collection of clues. The glove, the petals, the green thread, and now this. Each was a piece of the puzzle, and Poirot's mind was already assembling them into a picture only he could see. Inside, the guests remained in the velvet lounge, their murmurs hushed as Poirot re-entered. Lady Ashbourne approached, her face pale. "Monsieur Poirot, have you found anything? The guards say no one has left the manor." Poirot bowed slightly. "Madame, I have found a trail, but it is one of shadows and half-truths. The garden holds secrets, but so do your guests. I shall need to speak with Monsieur Ellis again, and perhaps others who know the manor sep's hidden paths." As the clock chimed one, Poirot felt the weight of the mystery deepening. The footprint was a tantalizing clue, but it was the manor's inhabitants, their glances, their silences that held the key. The emerald slipper was near, he was certain, and with it, a truth that would unravel more than a simple theft. Chapter 4. The locked study sept's secret. The heavy oak door of Lady Ashbourne's study creaked as Hercule Poirot stepped inside, his lantern casting long shadows across the room. The air was thick with the musty scent of old books and wax polish, a stark contrast to the glittering ballroom where the emerald slipper had vanished. The study, locked tight until Poirot requested access, was where the slipper had been stored before its fateful display. Captain Hastings hovered near the threshold, his eyes darting nervously. "Poirot, are you sure we should be here? Lady Ashworth was reluctant to let us in. What if the thief didn't even come this way?" Poirot's mustache twitched with a faint smile. "Mon ami, the study, it is the heart of this mystery. The slipper was kept here, under lock and key. If we are to understand the thief Sip's mind, we must first understand this room." The study was a shrine to opulence and history. Mahogany shelves lined the walls, groaning under leather-bound tomes and curios from distant lands. A massive desk dominated the center, its surface cluttered with inkwells, a silver letter opener, and a framed photograph of Lord Ashbourne, Lady Eleanor's late husband. Above the fireplace hung a portrait of a young woman in a silk gown, her eyes hauntingly familiar, though Poirot could not place why. The single window, shuttered tightly, admitted no moonlight, and the only sound was the faint tick of a grandfather clock in the corner. Poirot began his inspection with the desk, his gloved fingers tracing its carved edges. The slipper's glass dome had been stored here, Lady Ashbourne had said, in a locked drawer. The lock was intact, showing no signs of tampering, yet Poirot's keen eyes noticed a faint scratch on the brass keyhole, a mark too precise to be accidental. "Interesting," he murmured, producing a small magnifying glass. "The lock, it has been persuaded perhaps with a tool most delicate." He opened the drawer, revealing only a velvet lining and a faint indentation where the dome had rested. But as he pressed the lining, a soft click echoed, and a hidden compartment sprang open. Inside lay a bundle of letters, yellowed with age, tied with a faded green ribbon. Poirot's heart quickened. Mon Dieu, Hastings, a discovery. The study, it guards its secrets well. Hastings peered over his shoulder. "Letters? What do they have to do with the slipper?" Poirot untied the ribbon, revealing elegant handwriting in black ink. The top letter bore a crest, a stylized lily, unfamiliar to Poirot but clearly aristocratic. The text was in French, and as he skimmed it, his eyebrows rose. "These are no ordinary correspondences, Hastings. They are coded, written in a cipher, and they speak of un héritière disparue, a lost heiress." He read aloud, translating, "The emerald slipper is her legacy, a key to the fortune hidden beyond the sea. Guard it, for those who seek it will stop at nothing." The letter was signed only with an initial. Poirot's mind raced, recalling the embroidered glove from the ballroom, also marked with a V. The Countess, perhaps, he mused, or another playing a deeper game. The other letters hinted at a scandal. A young woman, the heiress, who vanished after a ball in Paris decades ago, her fortune tied to the slipper. One letter mentioned a traitor in the house, suggesting betrayal within the Ashbourne family. Poirot's fingers paused on a phrase. "The slipper's secret lies in its soul." He frowned, pondering its meaning. Was it literal, or a metaphor for something hidden within the artifact? He turned to the room's other secrets. The floorboards creaked underfoot, and Poirot knelt to examine them, tapping lightly. One board sounded hollow. With the letter opener he pried it loose, revealing a small cavity, empty but lined with dust disturbed recently, as if something had been removed. "The thief, they knew of this hiding place," Poirot said, "or they searched and found nothing." Hastings, growing impatient, gestured to the portrait. "What about her? She looks familiar. Could she be the heiress?" Poirot studied the painting. The woman's Celt's features, high cheekbones, piercing eyes, bore a faint resemblance to Lady Ashbourne, but younger, wilder. "Perhaps a relative," Poirot said, "or the heiress herself. We must ask Lady Ashbourne about this portrait." He moved to the window, checking the shutters. A faint smudge of talc, like that found in the ballroom and lounge, marked the sill. "The talc, it follows us," Poirot noted, a careless habit of the thief or a deliberate trail to confuse Hercule Poirot. As he examined the shelves, a book caught his eye, a slim volume on Russian folklore, its spine worn. Inside, a pressed rose petal fell out, identical to those found in the ballroom and garden. Poirot's eyes gleamed. "The roses, they are a motif, Hastings. They link the thief to the manor's past, and perhaps to this heiress." He returned to the desk where a small ink stain marred a blotter. Under it he found a torn scrap of paper with a single word. Varenka, the Countess's name, or a coincidence. Poirot pocketed the scrap, his mind weaving connections between the glove, the letters, and the Countess's enigmatic presence. Lady Ashbourne entered, her face pale but composed. "Monsieur Poirot, have you found anything? The guests are growing restless." Poirot held up the letters. "Madam, these speak of an heiress and a fortune tied to the slipper. Who is the woman in the portrait? And what do you know of this Leshgreth?" Lady Ashbourne-Sett's hand trembled. "The portrait is of my sister Anastasia, who disappeared years ago. As for Seed," Sist sighed, "I know nothing. My husband kept those letters hidden. He said the slipper was a memento, nothing more." Poirot Sist's gaze was piercing. "A memento, madame, or a key to a secret your sister left behind?" She faltered, then turned away. "I've told you all I know." As she left, Poirot turned to Hastings. The study, it reveals much, but conceals more. The heiress, the slipper, the traitor, these are threads of a tapestry woven long ago. The thief, they seek not just wealth, but power over a hidden truth. The clock chimed 2, its echo heavy in the silent study. Poirot's mind buzzed with possibilities. The coded letters, the talc, the petal, the name Varenka. The emerald slipper was no mere jewel. It was a cipher to a past that someone was desperate to keep buried. And Poirot, with his relentless logic, was determined to unearth it. Chapter 5. The Counterests' alibi. The velvet lounge of Ashbourne Manor glowed softly under the flicker of gas lamps, their light catching the gold threads in the heavy drapes. Hercule Poirot stood near a rosewood table, his posture impeccable, his eyes fixed on Countess Varenka. She reclined on a chaise longue, her sapphire blue gown pooling like liquid silk, her expression one of serene amusement. Yet Poirot, with his unerring instinct for deception, sensed a crack in her polished facade. The emerald slipper's theft demanded answers, and the Countess, with her whispered meeting and a glove marked Veb, was a puzzle he intended to solve. Captain Hastings, stationed by the fireplace, shifted uncomfortably. "Poirot, the Countess seems awfully calm for someone under suspicion. Are you sure she sits involved?" Poirot's moustache twitched. "Mon ami, the calmest waters hide the strongest currents. The Countess, she plays a game of charm and evasion, but Hercule Poirot sees beyond the surface. Observe and learn." He approached the Countess, bowing slightly. "Madame la Comtesse, you claim you were in your room during the blackout when the slipper was stolen. Yet Clara, the maid, places you near the service door with Monsieur Wren before the lights failed. A contradiction, non?" Countess Varenka-Sip's laugh was like the chime of crystal. "Monsieur Poirot, you give such weight to a servant Sip's fancy. I was indeed in my room, preparing for the waltz. Percival Wren is a sweet boy, but his conversation is dreadfully dull. If Clara saw us, it was a fleeting moment. Nothing more." Poirot's eyes narrowed, catching the slight tightening of her gloved hand. "And yet, madame, a glove embroidered with a vase was found near the pedestal. Not yours, you say, but most curious. And now I find this." He produced a torn lace handkerchief, its delicate edge stained with a faint trace of rouge, retrieved from the ballroom floor near the service door. The Countess Sep's smile faltered, but only for a moment. "A handkerchief? How common! Many ladies carry lace, Monsieur Poirot. Surely you don't think it mine?" Poirot held it up, his magnifying glass glinting in the lamplight. "This lace, madame, is Venetian, rare and costly. The rouge matches the shade on your lips. And the tear, most intriguing, it matches a snag on the service door spur's frame. Shall we test your alibi further?" The room's atmosphere thickened. The other guests, Lady Ashbourne, Sir Reginald, Miss Langley, and Percival Wren, watching with bated breath. The Countess rose, her movements graceful but deliberate, like a cat navigating a precarious ledge. "You are thorough, Monsieur Poirot," she said, her voice cool, "but I assure you I was in my room. Ask my maid, Arena. She helped me adjust my gown during the blackout." Poirot nodded, filing the name away. "We shall speak with her, but tell me, madam, what do you know of the slipper Sep's history? The letters in the study mention an heiress, a fortune and a crest, a lily perhaps familiar to you." The Countess Sep's eyes flickered, a shadow passing over her composure. "I know only what Lady Ashbourne shared, a pretty trinket from a Russian princess. As for lilies, they are common in heraldry. You see conspiracies where there are none." Poirot's smile was polite but unrelenting. "Conspiracies, madam. No connections. The glove, the handkerchief, the whisper with Monsieur Wren, these are threads, and I weave them into truth." He turned to Percival Wren, who sat hunched in a corner, his face pale. "Monsieur Wren, you spoke with the Countess before the blackout. What was the subject, if not the weather?" Percival stammered, his tie askew.
I told you it was nothing."
She asked about the gardens that Sips all. I didn't see her during the blackout. I was near the orchestra trying to find Miss Langley. Miss Langley, fanning herself nearby, raised an eyebrow. May, oh Percival, you set sweet, but I was with Sir Reginald. You must have been mistaken. Poirot's gaze darted between them. Noting the inconsistencies, he stepped to the table, where a decanter of sherry sat, its crystal catching the light, a faint smudge of talc, identical to those found in the ballroom, lounge and study, marked the base. The talc, it follows us, he murmured to Hastings. A habit perhaps of someone who handles fine objects with care. Hastings whispered, The thief, you mean? But the Countess wears gloves. Surely she wouldn't leave talc. A gloves, Hastings, can be removed. Poirot replied, And habits, they betray even the cautious. He summoned Irina, the Countess Sipsa's maid, a slight woman with downcast eyes. Mademoiselle Irina, you were with the Countess during the blackout. Oui? Describe the moment. Irina Sep's voice was barely audible. Yes, sir. I was pinning her gown in her room. The lights went out, and she told me to stay put. She didn't leave, I swear. Poirot Sep's eyes softened, but his tone was firm. And yet, mademoiselle, your hands tremble. What did you hear or see that you do not tell? Irina glanced at the Countess. Then away. Nothing, sir. It was dark. I heard only the music stopping. Poirot dismissed her. His mind cataloguing her hesitation, he turned back to the Countess. Madame, your alibi rests on a maid who fears to speak. The handkerchief, the glove, the talc, these circle you like stars around a moon. If you know more of the slipper's secret, now is the time to share. Poirot? The Countess Esther's lips curved in a defiant smile. You are a hunter, Monsieur Poirot, but I am no prey. I have nothing to hide. As she swept from the room, Poirot's gaze lingered on her retreating figure. He bent to examine the chaise where she had sat, finding a single emerald bead, smaller than the one from the lounge, caught in the upholstery. Another bead, he said softly, pocketing it. The slipper. It leaves its mark, even in absence. Lady Ashbourne approached, her voice low. Monsieur Poirot, do you suspect the Countess? She sebs a guest of impeccable standing. Poirot Sit's eyes gleamed. Impeccable, madam. No one is above suspicion when a jewel vanishes. The Countess. She dances on the edge of truth, but I shall lead her to the center. As the clock struck 3, the lounge seemed to close in, its velvet walls muffling the guests' murmurs. Poirot felt the mystery tightening like a noose. The Countess's alibi was fragile, her connection to the slipper undeniable. The handkerchief, the bead, the whispered meeting with Percival, all pointed to a deeper game. The emerald slipper was not just stolen. It was a key to a past that someone, perhaps the Countess, wished to keep locked. Chapter 6. Shadows of the Past. The library of Ashbourne Manor was a sanctuary of silence, its towering shelves heavy with the weight of forgotten stories. Hercule Poirot stood beneath a stained glass window, its muted colors casting a kaleidoscope of shadows across the oak-paneled floor. The emerald slipper's theft had stirred a restless energy in the manor, and Poirot, ever attuned to the whispers of history, sought answers in the past. A newspaper clipping, found tucked inside a dusty ledger in the study, had ignited his curiosity, a faded article about a dancer, the slipper's original owner, who vanished after a scandalous performance decades ago. Captain Hastings, perched on a ladder scanning book titles, sighed. Poirot, are you sure this old clipping matters? It sits from 1898. The thief is here. Now, not some ghost from the past. Poirot Sit's eyes gleamed in the lamplight. Mon ami, the past is never truly gone. It lingers, like a shadow on the wall. This dancer, she is the key to the slipper Sit's secret, and thus to our thief Sit's motive. The clipping, brittle and yellowed, bore a grainy photograph of a young woman in a silk costume, one foot adorned with the emerald slipper. The headline read, Mademoiselle Anastasia Volkov, star of Paris, disappears after Gaida. The article described her final performance at a grand ball, where the slipper, then a gift from a mysterious patron, sparked envy and rumor. Some claimed it was cursed, others that it hid a fortune. Anastasia vanished that night, leaving only the slipper behind, later acquired by Lord Ashbourne. Poirot's fingers traced the text, noting a name. V. Rostov, the patron. The initial V again matching the glove, the coded letters, and the scrap marked Varenka. The threads, they tighten, he murmured. But to what end? He summoned two elderly staff members, Mrs. Harrow, the housekeeper, and Mr. Gibbs, the butler, who had served the Ashbourne family for decades. They entered the library, their steps slow, their faces etched with the weariness of long service. Harrow, her grey hair pinned tightly, clutched a shawl, while Gibbs, stooped but dignified, leaned on a cane. "Madame Harrow, Monsieur Gibbs," Poirot began, his voice gentle yet probing. "You knew Lord Ashbourne when he acquired the emerald slipper. Tell me of its history. What do you know of Anastasia Volkov?" Mrs. Harrow's eyes clouded with memory. "Oh, sir, that slipper brought nothing but trouble. Lord Ashbourne bought it from a Russian émigré in Paris after the dancer, Anastasia, disappeared. They said she was a beauty, but wild, caught up in dangerous circles. There were whispers of a curse, that the slipper's emeralds carried misfortune." Gibbs nodded, his voice gravelly. "The master was obsessed with it. Kept it locked in the study, wouldn't sublet anyone touch it. He said it was a relic of a lost love, but he never spoke her name. After he died, Lady Eleanor decided to display it, against my advice." Poirot's gaze sharpened. "A lost love, you say? And this Anastasia, did Lord Ashbourne know her personally?" Mrs. Harrow hesitated, glancing at Gibbs. We heard rumors, sir, that the master met her in Paris before he married Lady Eleanor. Some said Anastasia was more than a dancer to him, but we never saw her here." Poirot's mind raced, connecting the portrait in the study, Lady Ashbourne's sister Anastasia, to the dancer. Could they be the same? He produced the clipping, holding it up. "This woman, she resembles the portrait in the study. Is it possible Lady Ashbourne's sister was Anastasia Volkov?" Gibbs paled, his cane trembling. "The portrait? Yes, it's Sam's Miss Anastasia, Lady Eleanor Sam's younger sister. She ran off to Paris years ago against the family Sam's wishes. We thought Sam's died, until the master brought back that slipper. He never spoke of her, but his eyes, they carried grief." Mrs. Harrow added, "There were stories, sir, of a fortune tied to the slipper, jewels or papers hidden in its sole. The master searched for it, but found nothing. Some said Anastasia took the secret with her when she vanished." Poirot's mustache twitched. "A fortune hidden in the soul. The letters in the study spoke of this. And yet the slipper is stolen, and the thief leaves only beads and petals. Most curious." He paced the library, his lantern casting shadows that seemed to dance like the ghosts of the past. A flashback gripped his imagination. Paris, 1898, a glittering ball, Anastasia Volkov, radiant in her emerald slipper twirling under chandeliers, a man, perhaps Lord Ashbourne, watching from the sidelines, his face torn between love and fear. A shadowy figure, Vaz Rostov, offering the slipper as a gift, but with strings attached. Then darkness, and Anastasia gone, leaving only whispers of betrayal. Returning to the present, Poirot examined a shelf where a book on Russian history lay askew. Inside, another rose petal, crimson and fresh, matched those found in the ballroom garden and study. "The roses, they follow us," he said to Hastings. "A signature, perhaps, of one who knows Anastasia's story." Hastings frowned. But Poirot, if Anastasia was Lady Ashbourne's sister, why would Eleanor display the slipper? "It sounds like inviting trouble." "Precisely, Hastings," Poirot replied. "Lady Ashbourne, she seeks to flush out the truth, or perhaps to hide it. The theft, it is no accident. It is a move in a game begun long ago." He turned back to the staff. "Madame Harrow, Monsieur Gibbs, did anyone else in the manor speak of the slipper set's curse or its fortune?" Gibbs cleared his throat. "The groundskeeper, Ellis. Sep's been here since the Master Steep's time. He once said the slipper should set been destroyed, that it brought only sorrow, but Sep's a superstitious sort, always muttering about ghosts. Poirot Sep's eyes gleamed. Monsieur Ellis again. His nerves, they betray him. Merci, you have been most helpful. As the staff departed, Poirot stood by the window, the clipping in hand. The library's silence seemed to hum with the weight of the past. Anastasia Volkov, the dancer, the heiress, perhaps Lady Ashbourne's sister, her shadow loomed over the theft. The slipper was more than a jewel. It was a key to a fortune, a betrayal, a vanished life. The thief, Poirot knew, was not just after wealth, but a secret buried in time. He turned to Hastings. The past, it speaks through the slipper. Hastings, Anastasia Sept's fate, is the heart of this mystery, and someone here, perhaps the Countess, perhaps another, knows why she vanished. We must dig deeper into the shadows of Ashbourne Manor. The clock struck 4, its chime echoing like a warning. Poirot's little grey cells buzzed, weaving the clipping, the petals, the letters into a tapestry of intrigue. The emerald slipper's secret was close, and he would not rest until it was laid bare. Chapter 7. The Butler Setition. The grand staircase of Ashbourne Manor rose in a majestic sweep, its polished mahogany banister gleaming under the soft glow of wall sconces. Hercule Poirot stood at its base, his small, precise figure dwarfed by the towering portraits of Ashbourne ancestors lining the walls. The air was heavy with the scent of beeswax and old secrets, and Poirot's sharp eyes were fixed on Mr. Grayson, the butler, whose rigid posture betrayed a flicker of unease. The emerald slipper's theft had stirred the manor's undercurrents, and Grayson's hesitation during earlier questioning had caught Poirot's attention like a snag in a fine tapestry. Captain Hastings, lingering near a marble bust, whispered, "Poirot the butler? He sits being nothing but proper. Surely he sits not the thief." Poirot sips, moustache twitched. "Mon ami. Propriety is a mask, and masks hide much. Monsieur Grayson," he hesitates, and in that hesitation lies a truth he does not wish to share. We shall uncover it. Poirot had requested Grayson meet him on the staircase, a neutral yet imposing setting where the butler's formal demeanor might falter. Grayson approached, his silver hair impeccable, his black suit pressed to perfection, yet his hands, clasped behind his back, trembled slightly, a detail Poirot noted with quiet satisfaction. "Monsieur Grayson," Poirot began, his voice smooth as velvet, "you have served the Ashbourne family for many years, yet when I asked about the night of the theft, you paused, most unlike a man of your precision. What troubles you?" Grayson Sepper's face remained impassive, but his eyes flickered toward the upper landing. "I assure you, Monsieur Poirot, I have nothing to hide. I was in the pantry overseeing the wine service when the lights went out. I saw nothing, heard nothing." Poirot stepped closer, his gaze piercing. "Nothing, monsieur? Yet your hands, they tremble, and your glance betrays you. You know something of the slipper, or perhaps of the Manor Sips's secrets. Speak, and ease your burden." Grayson Sip's jaw tightened, and for a moment silence hung between them like a drawn curtain. Then he spoke, his voice low. "I am loyal to Lady Ashbourne, sir. My duty is to this house, and I served it faithfully since Lord Ashbourne Sip's time." Poirot Sifter's eyes narrowed. "Lord Ashford." "Oui. The man who brought the emerald slipper to this manor. You served him before Lady Eleanor, did you not? And perhaps you know of his connection to Anastasia Volkov, the dancer who vanished." Grayson's composure cracked, a faint flush rising to his cheeks. I knew of Miss Anastasia, sir. She was Lady Eleanor's sister, a wild spirit who broke the family's heart. The Master Lord Ashbourne was fond of her, more than he should have been. When she disappeared, he was never the same. A sister, Poirot nodded, his mind weaving threads from the study Sept's letters and the library Sept's clipping. "And the slipper, Monsieur Grayson? Did Lord Ashbourne share its secrets with you? The fortune, the curse, the heiress?" Grayson's hands clenched, and he looked away toward a portrait of Lord Ashbourne, stern and sombre. "He spoke little of it, sir. only that the slipper was a keepsake, a reminder of a mistake. He locked it away, forbade us to touch it, but I heard rumors, servants talk, that it held a secret, something hidden in its soul. Poirot Sip's heart quickened. The soul again. The letters in the study mention this. Did you ever see Lord Ashbourne search the slipper? Grayson hesitated, then nodded. Once, late at night, in the study, he pried at the slipper set's heel, muttering about papers, a map, something lost. He found nothing, and his temper was fearsome after. I never saw him try again. Poirot Sip's eyes gleamed. A map, you say? Most interesting. And tell me, monsieur, who else in this house knew of this? Grayson Sip's voice dropped to a whisper. Only Mrs. Harrow, the housekeeper, and perhaps Mr. Ellis, the groundskeeper. They were here in those days. But, sir, I beg you don't think I had a hand in the theft. I sept never betray this house. Poirot studied him, noting the sincerity in his eyes, but also the shadow of something unspoken. Your loyalty. It is admirable, monsieur, but is it to Lady Ashbourne, or to the memory of Lord Ashbourne, or perhaps to another? Grayson stiffened, his cane tapping the stair. I serve this family, sir, and no one else. Poirot stepped back, his gaze sweeping the staircase. A faint mark caught his eye, a smudge of talc on the banister, identical to those found in the ballroom, lounge, and study. He rubbed it between his gloved fingers, his mind racing. The talc, it is everywhere, he murmured. A careless habit, or a deliberate trail. He produced the torn lace handkerchief from the ballroom, holding it up. This, Monsieur Grayson, was found near the service door. Do you recognize it? Grayson Sip's eyes widened briefly, then narrowed. No, sir. It Sip's not familiar. Many ladies carry lace. Poirot Sip's smile was enigmatic. Indeed, but this lace, it is Venetian, and it bears the scent of rouge. You were near the service door, overseeing the wine. Did you see the Countess, perhaps, or young Monsieur Wren? Grayson Sip's hesitation returned, a pause too long for innocence. I saw no one, sir. The pantry is far from the ballroom. I was busy. Poirot nodded, pocketing the handkerchief. Busy, oui. Yet the pantry is close to the service corridor, where a petal was found, and a draught carried the scent of roses. You will forgive me, monsieur, if I find your account incomplete. As Grayson bowed stiffly and retreated, Poirot turned to Hastings, the butler. He is loyal, but to whom? His hesitation, it speaks of a divided heart. Lord Ashbourne, Anastasia, the slipper, these are not just memories to him. They are burdens. Hastings frowned. But Poirot, if Grayson knows something, why not confess? His steps been with the family forever. Forever, Hastings, is a long time to carry a secret, Poirot replied. Grayson, he protects someone or something, a promise perhaps made to Lord Ashbourne. We must learn more of this map in the slipper set's soul. The staircase seemed to loom larger, its shadows deepening as the sconces flickered. Poirot's gaze lingered on the portrait of Lord Ashbourne, whose stern eyes seemed to guard a truth long buried. The talc, the handkerchief, Grayson's hesitation, all pointed to a conspiracy rooted in the manor's past. The emerald slipper was not merely stolen. It was sought for what it hid, and Grayson's loyalty was a key to unlocking that secret. As the clock chimed 5, Poirot felt the mystery's pulse quickening. The butler's hesitation was a crack in the manor's facade, and through it Poirot glimpsed the shadow of Anastasia Volkov, her slipper, and a fortune that someone was desperate to claim. Chapter 8. A Glimpse of Green. The attic of Ashbourne Manor was a cavern of shadows, its slanted ceiling draped in cobwebs that swayed in the draught from a cracked skylight. Hercule Poirot climbed the narrow, creaking staircase, his lantern casting a feeble glow across dusty trunks and forgotten relics. The air was thick with the scent of mildew and thyme, and the distant murmur of the manor's guests below seemed a world away. A young girl, Miss Emily Wren, The nervous air, Percival's younger sister, had sparked Poirot's interest with her trembling claim of seeing a green glow in the attic during the blackout. To Poirot, this childish observation was a beacon in the fog of the emerald slipper's theft. Captain Hastings, trailing behind, clutched the banister, his face pale in the dim light. "Poirot, are we really chasing a child Sept's fancy? A green glow. It's Sept's probably just moonlight on a bottle, or some such nonsense." Poirot Sept's moustache twitched with a faint smile. "Mon ami. The eyes of a child. See what adults overlook. Miss Emily, she is innocent, and innocence does not invent. We shall see what this attic hides." They reached the attic's landing, where the floorboards groaned underfoot. The space was cluttered with relics of the Ashbourne family's past: a cracked mirror, a tarnished chandelier, a stack of yellowed letters tied with twine. Poirot's lantern swept the room, its beam catching a small figure huddled near a trunk. Emily Wren, her wide eyes glinting with fear and curiosity. "Mademoiselle Emily," Poirot said gently, kneeling to her level, "you are most brave to speak of the green glow. Tell me, where did you see it? And when?" Emily's voice was a whisper, her fingers twisting a ribbon in her hair. "It was during the blackout, sir. I was exploring up here. I know I shouldn't, but the gala was so loud. I saw a green light, like a jewel, coming from that trunk." She pointed to a heavy oak chest in the corner, its brass fittings dulled by age. Poirot Sept's eyes gleamed. "Merci, mademoiselle. You have done well. Now stay with Monsieur Hastings while I investigate." Hastings, looking uneasy, guided Emily to a safer corner. "Poirot, be careful. This place feels wrong." Poirot approached the trunk, his lantern illuminating its weathered surface. The lock was rusted but intact, and a faint scratch mark suggested recent tampering. He produced a small tool from his pocket, a relic of his own preparedness, and worked the lock until it clicked open. Inside, he found moth-eaten shawls, a tarnished silver locket, and a bundle of old playbills from Parisian theatres, each featuring Anastasia Volkov, the dancer from the newspaper clipping. "Anastasia, again," Poirot murmured, sifting through the playbills. One bore a handwritten note. "To my love, keep the slipper safe." The initial, recurring like a leitmotif, linked the trunk to the glove, the letters, and the Countess. But it was the trunk's false bottom that drew his attention, a panel slightly ajar, as if hastily replaced. He lifted it, revealing a shallow compartment, empty save for a single emerald bead, identical to those found in the lounge and near the Countess. The bead caught the lantern's light, casting a faint green glow on the attic's rafters. "The glow Mademoiselle Emily saw," Poirot said, pocketing the bead. "But the slipper itself is not here. The thief, they came and went, leaving only this trace." Hastings frowned. "But Poirot, why leave the bead? And how did Emily see a glow during a blackout?" Poirot Sept's eyes narrowed. The blackout, it was brief, but the glow may have lingered, perhaps from a lantern or a match struck by the thief. As for the bead, it is either carelessness or a deliberate misdirection. The thief wishes us to believe the slipper was here." He examined the attic further, his lantern revealing a trail of disturbed dust leading to a small window, its latch loose. Outside, the manor's roof sloped toward the garden, where the mysterious footprint had been found. A faint smudge of talc marked the sill, consistent with the traces in the ballroom, lounge, and study. The talc, it is a persistent companion, Poirot noted, a habit of the thief, or a signature of their deceit. He returned to Emily, who clutched Hastings' hand. "Mademoiselle, did you hear anything when you saw the glow? A voice, a step?" Emily Sept's brow furrowed. "I heard a creak, sir, like someone moving fast. And a whisper, but I couldn't make out the words. It scared me, so I hid." Poirot nodded, his mind racing. The attic, with its relics of Anastasia's past, was a stage for the thief's movements. The green glow, the bead, the talc, all pointed to a calculated act, but the slipper's absence suggested it had been moved elsewhere, perhaps within the manor's labyrinthine walls. He summoned Lady Ashbourne, who arrived breathless, her shawl slipping from her shoulders. Monsieur Poirot, what is this about Emily? She shouldn't be up here. It sits dangerous. Poirot's sip's gaze was steady. Madame, your niece saw a green glow linked to the slipper. This trunk, it holds relics of Anastasia Volkov, your sister. Why were these kept hidden? Lady Ashbourne Sep's face paled. Anastasia Sep's things. I couldn't Sep's bear to part with them. She was a dancer, reckless but brilliant. The slipper was hers, a gift from a patron. I thought it safe here, forgotten. Poirot held up the playbill with the note. A patron feed, the same initial as the letters in your study. Was this patron known to you? She hesitated, her voice trembling. I never met him. Anastasia spoke of a Russian noble, Rostov, who adored her, but she vanished before I could learn more. Poirot's mind connected the dots. Anastasia, the slipper, the fortune, the mysterious V. The attic's secrets were a bridge to the past, and the thief was walking that bridge. He thanked Lady Ashbourne and sent Emily to her governess, then turned to Hastings. The attic, Hastings. It is a chapter in our mystery, but not the final page. The thief came here, seeking the slipper Sept's secret, a map, a fortune perhaps hidden in its soul. They left the bead to mislead us, but Hercule Poirot is not so easily fooled. The clock below chimed 6, its echo swallowed by the attic's gloom. The rafters creaked, as if the manor itself whispered of Anastasia's fate. Poirot's little grey cells hummed, weaving the bead, the talc, the playbills into a tapestry of deception. The emerald slipper was close. He felt it, hidden by a hand that knew the manor's past too well. Chapter 9. The cryptic telegram. The morning sun filtered through the tall windows of Ashbourne Manor's morning room, casting a golden haze over the polished walnut table where Hercule Poirot sat, his breakfast untouched. A telegram delivered moments ago by a breathless footman lay before him, its words stark and chilling. Leave the slipper's secret buried. Danger awaits. The paper bore no signature, only the stamp of a telegraph office in the nearby village of Ashford. To Poirot this was no mere warning. It was a challenge, a gauntlet thrown by the thief or their ally. The emerald slipper's mystery deepened, and Poirot's little grey cells were alight with purpose. Captain Hastings, sipping tea across the table, frowned at the telegram. "Poirot, this is serious. Someone doesn't want you poking around. Should we alert the local police?" Poirot Sip's mustache twitched with disdain. The police, mon ami. They would trample the delicate threads of this mystery. No, we shall trace this telegram ourselves. Its sender believes they can frighten Hercule Poirot, but they underestimate my resolve. He rose, his movements precise, and instructed Hastings to prepare the manor's motor car. The village of Ashford, a quaint cluster of stone cottages and cobblestone streets, was a short drive away. Poirot suspected the telegram's origin held clues to the slipper's theft, perhaps tied to the manor's past and the enigmatic V that haunted his findings, the glove, the letters, the playbill note. The drive to Ashford was brisk, the autumn air crisp with the scent of fallen leaves. The village telegraph office, a small building with ivy-clad walls, was staffed by a nervous clerk, Miss Thompson, who blinked rapidly as Poirot presented the telegram. "Monsieur, this was sent yesterday evening, oui?" he asked, his voice smooth but insistent. "Who brought it to you?" Miss Thompson sat, his hands fluttered. "A man, sir, hooded and cloaked. He paid in cash and left quickly. I didn't see his face, but he spoke with an accent foreign, maybe Russian. He was in a hurry, said it was urgent." Poirot Sip's eyes gleamed. "Russian, you say? Most interesting. And the time before or after the blackout at the manor?" "Before, sir. Around 7. The gala hadn't started, I reckon." Poirot nodded, filing the detail away. The telegram's timing suggested premeditation, sent before the theft to deter investigation. He thanked Miss Thompson and stepped outside, his gaze sweeping the village square, a jeweller's shop, its sign reading Hogg, Carver and Sons, caught his attention. The clipping about Anastasia Volkov had mentioned a jeweller who appraised the slipper's emeralds decades ago. Could this be a link? Inside the shop, the air was heavy with the ticking of clocks and the glint of gemstones. Mr. Carver, an elderly man with wire-rimmed spectacles, looked up from a loop. "Can I help you, sir?" he asked, his tone wary. Poirot bowed slightly. "Monsieur Carver, I am Hercule Poirot, investigating a theft at Ashbourne Manor, the Emerald Slipper. You are a jeweller of long standing. Oui? Did you, or perhaps your father, ever appraise such a piece?" Carver's hands stilled, his eyes narrowing. The Emerald Slipper. My father, Henry Carver, spoke of it. He worked for Lord Ashbourne in the old days, appraised a slipper with emeralds, fine as any he'd seen. Said it belonged to a dancer, a Russian girl who vanished. He never touched it again after that. Poirot leaned forward. "And did your father mention a patron, perhaps a thievy, Rostov, Sit, or a fortune tied to the slipper?" Carver hesitated, his fingers tracing a scar on the counter. "He did, sir, but only once. Said the slipper was more than a jewel. A key, he called it, to something hidden. He wouldn't say more, but he was scared, warned me never to get involved. There were men asking about it years ago, foreigners with hard eyes." Poirot's sister's mind raced, connecting the jeweller Sip's tale to the coded letters and the playbill Sip's note. "These men, monsieur, did they leave a name or a crest, perhaps a lily?" Carver shook his head. "No crest, but one left a card, blank save for a set in black ink. Father burned it, said it was trouble." Poirot produced the telegram, holding it up. "And this, does it resemble the work of those men?" Carver's face paled.
"I don't sit no, sir, but it sicks the kind of thing father feared."
He said the slipper brought danger, that it should have stayed lost. Thanking Carver, Poirot stepped into the street, where a faint breeze carried the scent of roses from a nearby garden. He paused, noticing a crimson petal caught in a crack in the cobblestones, identical to those found in the manor's ballroom, garden, study, and attic. "The roses, they follow us," he murmured to Hastings. A signature or a taunt. Hastings frowned. "Poirot, this telegram, it sops a threat, and the jeweller Seb's story, it sops all whispers and shadows. How does it help us find the slipper?" Poirot's eyes gleamed. "The telegram, Hastings, is a misstep. The thief, or their ally, fears my progress. The jeweller confirms the slipper's secret, a key to a fortune, linked to Anastasia Volkov and this V. The petal, it ties the village to the manor. The thief moves between both, but they are close." Back at the manor, Poirot examined the telegram again, noting its crisp paper and precise type. A faint smudge of talc marked the edge, matching the traces found throughout his investigation. "The talc, it is a constant," he said. "A habit of one who handles jewels, perhaps, like our Monsieur Carver, or another who knows the slipper's worth." He summoned Lady Ashbourne, showing her the telegram. "Madame, this warning came from Ashford. Do you know of a jeweller Carver, or a Russian patron named Rostov?" Lady Ashbourne Sept's hand trembled. "Carver Sept's father worked for my husband. Yes, but I know no Rostov. This telegram, it frightens me, Monsieur Poirot. Who would send such a thing?" Poirot's sister's gaze was steady. "Someone who knows the slipper Sip's true value, madame. A fortune, a secret, a betrayal. Your sister, Anastasia, was its keeper. The thief seeks what she hid." As Lady Ashbourne retreated, Poirot stood by the window, the village's rooftops visible in the distance. The telegram was a bold move, but a desperate one. The jeweller's tale, the petal, the talc, all pointed to a conspiracy rooted in Anastasia's disappearance. The emerald slipper was near, hidden by a hand that feared Poirot's relentless pursuit. The clock chimed noon, its echo sharp in the morning room. Poirot's little grey cells hummed, weaving the telegram's warning into the tapestry of clues. The thief was watching, but so was he, and the truth was closer than ever. Chapter 10. The masquerade scepter's motive. The ballroom of Ashbourne Manor shimmered with a chaotic splendor, transformed into a stage for a masked ball that seemed both a celebration and a defiance of the emerald slipper's theft. Chandeliers cast a golden glow over swirling gowns and feathered masks, the air alive with the strains of a Viennese waltz and the clink of champagne flutes. Hercule Poirot, clad in a simple black domino mask that left his piercing eyes unobscured, moved through the crowd like a shadow, his senses attuned to the undercurrents of deception. The gala, hastily arranged by Lady Ashbourne to maintain appearances, was a perfect crucible for secrets, and Poirot intended to forge truth from its chaos. Captain Hastings, sporting a garish harlequin mask, sidled up, his voice low. "Poirot, this is madness. A ball after a theft, and with that telegram threatening you. Shouldn't we be searching rooms, not dancing?" Poirot Sip's moustache twitched beneath his mask. Mon ami, the thief thrives in this masquerade, believing the crowd hides them, but Hercule Poirot sees through masks, whether of silk or lies. Observe and listen, the truth will reveal itself. The guests, emboldened by their disguises, mingled with a reckless energy. Countess Varenka glided past in a silver mask adorned with sapphires, her laughter sharp. Sir Reginald Thorne, his face half hidden by a lion's mask, stood stiffly by a pillar, his cane tapping an impatient rhythm. Miss Langley, the actress, twirled in a peacock-feathered mask, her giggles drawing eyes. Percival Wren, his thin frame draped in a plain black mask, hovered near the orchestra, his nervous tic more pronounced. Poirot noted each, his mind cataloguing their movements against the backdrop of clues, the talc, the rose petals, the emerald beads, the cryptic telegram. He positioned himself near a velvet-curtained alcove, where the music was softer and conversations more candid. A heated exchange caught his ear. Two voices, muffled but intense, behind a tapestry depicting a hunt. Poirot slipped closer, his small stature an advantage in the crowded room, and parted the fabric just enough to listen. "You promised me, Percival," hissed a woman Sip's voice, low and urgent. "The slipper was to secure my share. Without it, I sipped ruined." Percival Renset's voice trembled in response. "I tried, Beatrice, but it's set's gone. Someone else got to it first. If we set court—" "Silence," the woman snapped. "Keep your nerve or we lose everything." Poirot's heart quickened. Beatrice, Lady Beatrice, the dowager who had muttered about the slipper's curse in the lounge. Her words suggested a motive tied to an inheritance, perhaps the fortune hinted at in the study's letters and the jeweller's tale. He stepped back, blending into the crowd, his mind weaving this new thread into the tapestry of the mystery. He sought out Lady Beatrice, spotting her in a raven mask, her silver hair coiled tightly. Approaching with a bow, he said, "Madame, you dance with such grace, yet your heart seems heavy. May Hercule Poirot offer a moment's conversation?" Lady Beatrice Sisting's eyes narrowed behind her mask. "Monsieur Poirot, I am merely enjoying the ball. What do you want?" Poirot Sip's voice was gentle but probing. "I overheard a discussion, madame, about a Setcher Sips and the slipper. You spoke with Monsieur Wren." "Oui. What inheritance do you seek?" Her hand tightened on her fan, its lace edge frayed, reminiscent of the handkerchief found near the service door. "You eavesdrop, monsieur? How crude! I spoke of family matters, nothing more. Percival is my nephew. We discuss finances often." Poirot Sip's eyes gleamed. "Finances, madame, or a fortune tied to the emerald slipper perhaps hidden in its soul, as the letters suggest." Lady Beatrice stiffened, her mask unable to hide her unease. "You meddle in things you don't understand. The slipper is a trinket, nothing more." As she turned away, Poirot noticed a faint smudge of talc on her glove, matching the traces found throughout the manor. "The talc? It follows us," he murmured, his mind racing. He recalled the jeweller's fear, the telegram's warning, the rose petals scattered like breadcrumbs. Lady Beatrice's involvement was no coincidence. She was entangled in the slipper's secret. He moved to Percival, who stood alone, his mask askew. "Monsieur Wren," Poirot said softly, "your aunt speaks of an inheritance. What share do you seek, and why does it involve the slipper?" Percival Sep's face flushed, his tic worsening. I don't know what you mean, sir. Aunt Beatrice is just protective. We set family. That seps all. Poirot's gaze was unrelenting. Family, oui, but family with secrets. You were seen with the Countess, whispering before the theft. Now with Lady Beatrice. Speak, monsieur, or the truth will find you first. Percival stammered, then fled into the crowd. His mask slipping further, Poirot did not pursue. The boy's fear was answer enough. He turned his attention to the ballroom's edges, where a servant, Clara, the maid, carried a tray of glasses. Her eyes darted toward the alcove, and Poirot followed her gaze, spotting a single crimson rose petal on the floor, its edge bruised. "The roses, they persist," he said to Hastings, who had rejoined him. "And the talc, the beads, the whispers, they point to a conspiracy, Hastings. Lady Beatrice and Percival seek a fortune, but they are not alone." Hastings frowned. "But Poirot, if they set her after an inheritance, why steal the slipper? Why not just search it?" Poirot's eyes gleamed behind his mask. "The slipper, it is a key, mon ami. The soul, it hides something, a map, a document, as Lord Ashbourne believed. The thief stole it not for its gems, but for what it conceals. Lady Beatrice knows this, and perhaps others." As the waltz swelled, Poirot scanned the dancers, his mind weaving connections. The Countess, gliding past, caught his eye, her sapphire mask glinting. Had she overheard the same exchange? Sir Reginald, his lion mask askew, stood near the pedestal where the slipper once rested, his cane tapping nervously. Miss Langley's laughter rang out, but her eyes followed Percival. The ball was a masquerade of motives, and Poirot was its unmasker. He approached Lady Ashbourne, resplendent in a golden mask, and showed her the petal. "Madam, the roses, they mark the thief Sep's path. Have you seen Lady Beatrice or Percival near the slipper Sep's pedestal tonight?" Lady Ashbourne Sep's voice trembled. "Beatrice is family, Monsieur Poirot, but distant. Percival is her ward, impressionable. I can believe they steal from me." Poirot bowed. "Belief, madame, must yield to evidence. The slipper Sep's secret draws many, and I shall uncover them all." As the clock struck 9, the ballroom's revelry seemed a fragile veneer over a cauldron of secrets. Poirot's little grey cells buzzed, piecing together Lady Beatrice's motive, Percival's fear, and the persistent clues, talc, petals, beads. The emerald slipper was hidden, but its motive was laid bare, a stolen inheritance, a fortune long buried, and a thief desperate to claim it. Chapter 11. The Hidden Passage. The library of Ashbourne Manor stood silent under the weight of its ancient tomes, the air heavy with the scent of leather and dust. Hercule Poirot, his lantern casting a soft glow across the oak-panelled walls, stood before a towering bookcase, his sharp eyes fixed on a faint irregularity, a shelf slightly misaligned, its edge catching the light. The emerald slipper's theft had woven a web of clues, talc, rose petals, emerald beads, a cryptic telegram, and now a maid's fleeting glance toward the library during the masked ball had drawn Poirot here. The manor, he sensed, held secrets in its very bones, and this bookcase was a door to one of them. Captain Hastings, pacing near a globe, rubbed his hands against the evening chill. "Poirot, are you sure about this?" "A secret passage. It sits like something out of a Gothic novel. What if it sits just a creaky shelf?" Poirot's moustache twitched with a faint smile. "Mon ami, the manor is old, and old houses have secrets as people have lies. The maid, Clara, her glance betrayed a knowledge she dares not speak. This bookcase, it is more than it seems." He ran his gloved fingers along the shelf, feeling for a catch. A book, a worn copy of the Count of Monte Cristo, jutted out slightly. Poirot pulled it, and with a low groan, the bookcase swung inward, revealing a narrow passage descending into darkness. Dust motes danced in the lantern's beam, and a stale, earthy scent wafted up, tinged with the faint sweetness of roses. "Mon Dieu!" Poirot murmured, his eyes gleaming. "A hidden passage, just as I suspected. The thief, they know the manor Sep's secrets, and this is their path." Hastings peered into the gloom, his face pale. Poirot, this looks dangerous. Shouldn't we get a guard? Poirot shook his head. No, Hastings. The thief moves in shadows, and so must we. Follow, but tread lightly. The passage was narrow, its stone walls damp and cold, the steps, worn smooth by time, spiraled downward, and Poirot's lantern illuminated cobwebs and faint scratches on the walls, fresh as if made by a hurried hand. At the bottom, the passage opened into a small cellar, its ceiling low and its air thick with dust. Crates and barrels lined the walls, covered in grime, but one crate bore marks of recent disturbance, its lid slightly askew. Poirot knelt, examining the crate. A faint smudge of talc marked its edge, consistent with the traces found in the ballroom, lounge, study, and attic. The talc, it is our old friend, he said softly. The thief, they were here, perhaps hiding the slipper. He lifted the lid, revealing only mouldy straw and a broken wine bottle. But on the floor nearby, glinting in the lantern's light, was a cufflink, silver, engraved with a stylized lily. Poirot's heart quickened. The lily crest, he murmured, recalling the coded letters in the study. This belongs to a guest, Hastings. A man, perhaps, with a connection to Anastasia Volkov's patron. Hastings frowned. A cufflink? But whose? Sir Reginald wears them, and so does Percival Wren. Even Mr. Hargrove, the financier, had some fancy ones at the ball. Poirot pocketed the cufflink, his mind racing. We shall compare, mon ami. But this lily, it is no coincidence. It links to the set of Rostov, the patron, and perhaps to Countess Varenka. He examined the cellar further, noting more scratches on the walls, as if someone had dragged something heavy, a trunk perhaps, or the slipper's glass dome. A faint draught carried the scent of roses, and Poirot followed it to a narrow grate in the wall, leading to the garden where the mysterious footprint had been found. A single crimson petal lay caught in the grate's bars, its edge bruised, matching those scattered throughout the manor. The roses, they mark the thief Sep's trail, Poirot said. This passage connects the library to the garden, a route unseen by guards. The thief, they are clever, using the manor Sep's secrets to move the slipper. Hastings shivered. But Poirot, why not take it and flee? Why hide it here? Poirot Sep's eyes gleamed. The slipper, Hastings, is not just a jewel. It hides a fortune, a map, a document, as Lord Ashbourne believed. The thief seeks to find it before escaping, or perhaps to keep it from another. He returned to the passage, climbing back to the library. The bookcase clicked shut behind them, sealing its secret. Poirot summoned Clara, the maid, who arrived pale and trembling. "Mademoiselle Clara," he said gently, "you looked to this bookcase during the ball. You know of this passage, oui?" Clara spes. Hands twisted her apron. I didn't set mean to, sir. I heard a noise once, late at night, coming from the library. I thought it was rats, but I saw the bookcase move, just a bit. I never told anyone, I swear." Poirot Sep's gaze was kind but unrelenting. "And who else knows of this passage, mademoiselle?" "The butler, Grayson. The groundskeeper, Ellis." Clara shook her head. "I don't know, sir. Only that Mr. Grayson warned us never to linger in the library after dark. He said it was unsafe." Poirot nodded, dismissing her. "Grayson again," he said to Hastings. "His loyalty to Lord Ashbourne, his hesitation, they suggest he guards more than the manor sipped silver." He produced the cufflink, holding it to the light. The lily crest was intricate, a symbol of wealth and lineage. "This belongs to someone present at the gala," he said. "We shall ask Sir Reginald, Percival, and Hargrove to show their cufflinks. One will match, and one will lie." As they returned to the morning room, Lady Ashbourne greeted them, her face drawn. "Monsieur Poirot, have you found the slipper? The guests are restless, and this ball has only heightened their nerves." Poirot bowed. "Madame, I have found a path hidden in your manor Sep's heart. The slipper is near, guarded by one who knows its secret. Tell me who among your guests wears cufflinks with a lily crest." Lady Ashbourne. Sighs, widened. A lily, a lily. I am not sure. Sir Reginald favours military crests, but Percival, his family has old ties to French nobility. Perhaps a lily. Poirot's mind buzzed, weaving the cufflink into the tapestry of clues, the talc, the petals, the beads, the telegram. The passage was a revelation, but the thief was still a shadow moving through the manor's secrets. The emerald slipper was close, hidden by a hand that feared exposure, and Poirot was determined to bring it to light. The clock chimed 10, its echo sharp in the quiet library. Poirot's little grey cells hummed, the passage's secrets tightening the net around the thief. The lily cufflink was a key, and he would turn it to unlock the truth. Chapter 12. The confession unravelled. The drawing-room of Ashbourne Manor glowed with the soft warmth of a roaring fire, its flickering light casting shadows across the damask wallpaper and gilded furniture. Hercule Poirot stood at the room's centre, his small figure commanding the attention of the assembled guests, who sat in a tense semicircle on plush sofas and armchairs. The emerald slipper's theft had woven a tapestry of clues: talc, rose petals, emerald beads, a cryptic telegram, a lily cufflink, and now a dramatic confession from Percival Wren threatened to unravel it all. Yet Poirot, with his unerring instinct for deception, sensed a performance designed to obscure the truth. Captain Hastings, leaning against a marble mantelpiece, whispered, "Poirot, Percival Sipp's confession came out of nowhere. Do you think he Sipp's really the thief?" Poirot Sipp's moustache twitched, his eyes gleaming. "Mon ami, a confession so sudden is like a play without rehearsal. It lacks conviction. Monsieur Wren, he is a pawn, moved by another Sepp's hand. We shall see who pulls the strings." The guests, Lady Ashbourne, Countess Varenka, Sir Reginald Thorne, Miss Langley, Lady Beatrice, and Mr. Hargrove, watched with bated breath as Percival stood, his thin frame trembling, his face pale beneath his dishevelled hair. I took the slipper," he stammered, his voice cracking. It was a moment of madness. I thought it would solve everything. It's hidden in the attic, in a trunk." A murmur rippled through the room, but Poirot raised a hand for silence. "Monsieur Wren," he said, his voice smooth yet sharp, "you claim the slipper is in the attic, yet Mademoiselle Emily saw only a green glow there, and I found but a single bead. Why confess now, and why so publicly?" Percival Sapsor's eyes darted to Lady Beatrice, who sat rigid, her raven mask from the ball discarded, but her expression guarded. I couldn't bear the guilt," he said weakly. "I wanted to make it right." Poirot stepped closer, his gaze piercing. "Guilt, monsieur, or fear? You spoke with Lady Beatrice at the ball of an inheritance, a share tied to the slipper, and now a cufflink with a lily crest found in the hidden passage points to you. Yet your confession, it is too convenient. Tell me, who bids you take the blame?" Percival Sipp's knees buckled, and he sank into a chair, his hands covering his face. "No one. It was my idea. My mistake." Poirot turned to the guests, his voice rising with theatrical flair. "Mesdames et messieurs, this confession is a distraction, a veil to hide a deeper crime. The slipper, it is not in the attic. It is elsewhere. And Monsieur Wren knows this. He protects someone, perhaps under threat. Let us unravel this thread." He produced the lily cufflink, holding it aloft. "This was found in the cellar, reached by a hidden passage from the library. Monsieur Wren, your cufflinks show them to me." Percival hesitated, then rolled up his sleeves, revealing plain silver cufflinks unadorned. "These are mine," he said, his voice barely audible. Poirot Sipp's eyes narrowed, and yet the lily crest suggests another. "Sir Reginald, Monsieur Hargrove, your cufflinks, if you please." Sir Reginald, his lion mask long removed, snorted but complied, revealing military crests. Hargrove, the financier, displayed cufflinks with an engraved. Neither matched the lily. Poirot's gaze shifted to Countess Varenka, who sat serene, her sapphire eyes unreadable. "Madame la Comtesse, you are silent, yet the initial Vard haunts this mystery. Have you cufflinks, perhaps a gift to another?" The Countess Sipp's laugh was sharp. "Cufflinks, Monsieur Poirot, I am a lady, not a gentleman. Your accusations grow tiresome. Poirot smiled enigmatically. Accusations, madame. No, merely questions. But let us consider another clue. He produced a folded note, found slipped under his door that morning, its handwriting hasty. Percival is their puppet. Look to the roses. The note, unsigned, bore a faint smudge of talc and a pressed rose petal, consistent with the manor's recurring motif. This note, Poirot continued, suggests blackmail. Monsieur Wren, you are coerced. Oui. Someone threatens to expose a secret. Perhaps your family sept's claim to an inheritance tied to Anastasia Volkov, the slipper sept's original owner. Lady Beatrice gasped, her fan snapping shut. This is outrageous. Percival is my nephew, not a criminal. You twist everything, Monsieur Poirot. Poirot sept's gaze was unrelenting. Madame Beatrice, you spoke of a set chair sepsis at the ball. You know of the slipper sepsis secret, a map, a fortune hidden in its soul. Did you urge Percival to steal it, or to confess to protect another? Lady Beatrice Sest's face flushed, but she remained silent. Poirot turned to Lady Ashbourne, who sat pale, clutching her shawl. Madame, your sister Anastasia was the dancer. Her fortune, it draws your family like moths to a flame. Is Percival Sest's confession a shield for another, perhaps yourself? Lady Ashbourne Sest's voice trembled. I would never steal from my own home. Anastasia Sest's past is painful, but I know nothing of this. Poirot paced, his mind weaving the clues, talc petals, beads, the cufflink, the telegram, the note. The thief, he said, is not alone. They work with an ally using blackmail to manipulate others. Percival, you are a victim, not the mastermind. Speak, and name the one who holds your strings. Percival Said's eyes filled with tears, his voice a whisper. It was a letter. Someone sent me a letter, threatening to ruin my family, to expose Aunt Beatrice Sest's debts. They said to confess, to say the slipper was in the attic, or they set destroy us. Poirot Sest's eyes gleamed. A letter, oui, and did it bear a lily crest, or the scent of roses? Percival nodded. A lily pressed into the wax. I burned it, but I couldn't set refuse. The room erupted in murmurs, but Poirot raised a hand. Silence. The lily crest, it points to Vifrostov, the patron, or perhaps Varenka. The thief uses blackmail to muddy the waters, but Hercule Poirot sees clearly. The slipper is hidden, not in the attic, but in a place only the manor's secrets can reveal. He turned to Clara, the maid, who hovered near the door. Mademoiselle Clara, you know the manor sepsa's passages. Did you deliver this note, or see who did? Clara shook her head, trembling. No, sir. I saw a letter in the hall, but I didn't set touch it. I swear. Poirot nodded, his mind racing. The confession was a ruse, the lily cufflink, a clue to the true thief, a figure tied to Anastasia's past, wielding blackmail to protect the slipper's secret. The drawing-room's fire crackled, its shadows dancing like the ghosts of the manor's history. The emerald slipper was near, and Poirot was one step closer to unmasking its keeper. The clock chimed 11, its echo sharp. Poirot's little grey cells buzzed, the confession unraveling into a deeper plot, the truth glinting like an emerald in the dark. Chapter 13. The Slipper Sept's Final Secret. The grand hall of Ashbourne Manor stood resplendent under the glow of its massive chandelier, its crystal prisms scattering light across the marble floor. Hercule Poirot, his small figure commanding the vast space, stood before the assembled guests, who sat in a tense circle on velvet chairs. The air was thick with anticipation, the weight of the emerald slipper's theft pressing on every heart. Clues, talc rose petals, emerald beads, a lily cufflink, a cryptic telegram, a blackmail note, had led Poirot to this moment, and now, in true theatrical style, he would unveil the thief and the slipper's final secret. Captain Hastings, standing by a towering window, whispered, "Poirot, are you sure? This is it. The moment you name the thief. What if they bolt?" Poirot Sip's mustache twitched, his eyes gleaming with certainty. Mon ami, the thief will not run. They are here among us, believing their web of deception unbreakable, but Hercule Poirot's little grey cells have untangled every thread. Observe and marvel. The guests: Lady Ashbourne, Countess Varenka, Sir Reginald Thorne, Miss Langley, Lady Beatrice, Percival Wren, Mr. Hargrove, and the staff, including Grayson, Clara, and Ellis, watched with a mix of dread and fascination. Lady Ashbourne clutched her shawl, her face pale. The Countess sat serene, her sapphire eyes unreadable. Percival trembled, his confession exposed as a blackmailer's ruse. Poirot raised a hand, silencing the room's murmurs. "Mes dames et messieurs," he began, his voice resonant, "the theft of the emerald slipper is no mere crime of greed. It is a quest for a secret buried in its soul, a fortune, a map tied to Anastasia Volkov, Lady Ashbourne's sister. Let us unravel this mystery, step by step." He paced, his movements deliberate. The slipper vanished during a blackout, its glass dome unforced, a glove marked V, a lace handkerchief, talc smudges, rose petals, emerald beads. These were the breadcrumbs. The footprint in the garden suggested an outsider, yet led nowhere. The study's letters spoke of an heiress, the attic's trunk of Anastasia's past, the telegram of danger, the passage of a hidden path, and then Percival's confession, a lie coerced by blackmail. He turned to Percival, who shrank in his seat. "Monsieur Wren, you confessed to protect Lady Beatrice, your aunt, from exposure of her debts. A note with a lily crest forced your hand, but you did not steal the slipper. You were a pawn." Poirot produced the lily cufflink, its silver glinting. "This, found in the cellar-sit's hidden passage, points to the true thief, not Sir Reginald nor Hargrove. Their cufflinks do not match, but one guest wears the lily crest, a symbol of the Rostov family, Anastasia Sepp's patron." All eyes turned to Countess Varenka, whose smile remained icy. Poirot continued, "Madame la Comtesse, you are no stranger to the slipper. Your name, Varenka, echoes Verschworth. Rostov, the patron who gifted it to Anastasia, the glove, the handkerchief, the talc, these are yours. You knew the slipper's secret, a map to a fortune, hidden in its soul." The Countess laughed, sharp and defiant. "Monsieur Poirot, you weave a fine tale, but I am no thief. I was in my room during the blackout, as my maid confirmed." Poirot's eyes narrowed. "Your maid, Irina, trembled, madam. She lied as you instructed. The toolkit betrays you, a jeweler's habit dusting your gloves to handle gems. You used the hidden passage known to you from Anastasia's letters to steal the slipper during the blackout. You hid it, seeking its secret, but left beads and petals in your haste." He turned to the staff. "Monsieur Grayson, your loyalty to Lord Ashbourne hid your knowledge of the passage. You suspected the Countess, but kept silent, honoring an old promise. Monsieur Ellis, your nervous muttering about the slipper's curse masked your role. You saw the Countess in the garden, leaving the footprint as a decoy." Ellis paled, stammering, "I didn't mean no harm, sir. She paid me to keep quiet." The Countess rose, her composure cracking. "This is absurd. You have no proof." Poirot smiled, producing a small velvet pouch from his pocket. "Madame, you hid the slipper in the cellar, behind a loose stone in the passage's wall. I found it this morning with another of your beads." He opened the pouch, revealing the emerald slipper, its gems sparkling. The room gasped. "The soul," Poirot continued, "held a folded parchment, a map to a safe in Paris containing Anastasia's fortune. You, madame, are her distant cousin seeking to claim it. You blackmailed Percival to confess, sent the telegram to deter me, and used the passage to move unseen. But you forgot the roses, madame. Your perfume, clinging to the petals, marked your every step." Lady Ashbourne stood, tears in her eyes. Anastasia Sepp's fortune. She meant it for charity, not greed. "Countess, how could you?" The Countess Sepp's face twisted, her mask of elegance gone. Anastasia was a fool, squandering her wealth. It was mine by right. Poirot signaled the guards, who approached the Countess. "Madame, you underestimated Hercule Poirot. Your greed betrayed you, as did the little grey cells of my mind. As the Countess was led away, Poirot addressed the room. The slipper scepter's secret is revealed. A fortune, yes, but also a lesson. Greed blinds, but truth shines brighter than any emerald. Lady Ashbourne approached, her voice soft. Monsieur Poirot, you Sepp saved more than the slipper. Anastasia Sepp's memory is safe. Poirot bowed. Madame, it is my duty to restore order. The slipper, it is yours, and the fortune, it shall serve as Anastasia wished. The guests dispersed, their whispers fading. Hastings clapped Poirot Sepp's shoulder. You did it, old chap. Every clue tied up neatly. Poirot Sepp's eyes twinkled. Neatly, Hastings. The truth is never neat, but it is always clear to Hercule Poirot. The clock chimed midnight, its echo ringing through the grand hall. The emerald slipper rested on its pedestal, its secret laid bare. Poirot, satisfied, stepped into the night, the manor's shadows no longer hiding their truths.